your time, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And forward.
Yeah.
Backward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you also to the presenter. I'm not a professor yet, but thank you for the kind gesture. I will be talking today about knowledge embraceability using the LEAF approach that I developed during my PhD. The program today is I will introduce a little bit of the research topic, talk a little bit about the LEAF framework, the methodology that we followed, the process models that I developed, the testing and validation, and some of the key takeaways. So I conducted my research in the Dutch railway sector. And as you can see in this picture, we see a lot of technical stuff, so the train and the tracks, but it's also people involved here. So that's where I want to start. So it's a socio-technical context, people and technology working together. And it's system integration because the party that is running the trains are a different organization than the organization that is maintaining the tracks. And they need to work together. So system integration from there. And there we want to focus on how can we learn from our experiences so that we don't make the same mistakes again. So the train is not late again every time, and that we can learn from our experiences. And there we say that we need to create embraceability of lessons learned in the railway sector. What does embraceability mean and what does lessons learned mean? I will talk about them as we go along. But that is the context in which this research was done. So the goal was to define a process that can effectively facilitate the embraceability of lessons learned in the railway sector. So what are lessons learned? And this definition I take from 1966 from Secchi, which says it's knowledge that is gained from experience. Can be positive or negative. Should have a significant and real impact on operations and should be valid and applicable. That is also to say that, from my question this morning about tacit knowledge, that this is the knowledge that you gain from experience by being in the field and not based on data necessarily. So how do you manage that and how do you transfer that? So when that is out of the way, what is embraceability then? If we look at, in English, it means to kind of to hug. And we see here the presidents trying to shake hands. So the idea is, how can we have knowledge embraceability, that people accept and hug knowledge in the organization, in the institutions? How can we define embraceability, identify it? On an individual level, you have happier people. So they are happy with the work they are doing. And an organizational level, you have a better understanding of risks, connecting with the organization performances. So in this context, now that we know what is embraceability, what the research is about, and what are lessons learned, this is the typical structure what happens in organizations. So you have a team and a department of people that are working and discussing experiences. They come to a conclusion, okay, these are the lessons learned. They put them in their database. There is some kind of a quality assurance that checks those lessons learned, and then they store it in a database. But what happens then? You have a nice SharePoint site, but nobody uses it. We have very wonderful lessons learned databases, but we keep repeating the same mistakes. And there comes my research topic on how can we then improve the embraceability of those lessons learned. So then the introduction to LEAF framework. So I talk about 4 key features of knowledge, experience knowledge. So we have to focus on learnability of knowledge, embraceability of knowledge, applicability of knowledge, and findability of knowledge. And that's where the acronym LEAF comes from. When I talk about learnability, then it's like people learn in different ways. Some people learn by watching a video. Some people learn by reading an article. Some people learn by having a coffee with another colleague. So we have to provide different ways of learning to our workforce. Embraceability, I will talk about later. It's about how can we, how can we create trust? How can we create time in an organization on an individual and organizational level? Applicability is like, in which context is it applicable, my knowledge? Is it connected to the wheel set, or the door, or the track, or the people, or the train driver? And findability is, how can I easily find that knowledge, and also find the experts for a certain subject. So that's and if you do all of them, then you are kind of like in the zone of optimal knowledge sharing. This is the methodology. I followed the Pfeffer's design science methodology, which talks about identifying the problem, defining the objectives of solution, design and development, and demonstration. I will not bore you with the details, but the idea is that you use the LEAF framework as a starting point, you develop some questions, then you develop some design principles based on which you develop some process models, and then you test them. This is the interview questions that we had, 32 participants. So you ask them different questions for each of the LEAF features. For example, you can ask them, what can others learn from your experiences? You have to think of, when you are sharing a story, what can the other person learn from my experiences? That's on an individual level, and the organizations then need to worry about how to generalize those individual learnings. So one experience, how can the whole department learn from it? Similarly, you can think of in which situations my experience can be applied. So when you are telling a lessons learned, you can already give an example of, okay, you can apply this in this context. And the organization can worry about how to classify and contextualize these experiences. So what we did is, we talked to experts and we asked them all these questions. First, we asked them to share their lessons learned. Then we asked them to share the same lesson by answering all these questions. And then we saw, do we have a richer story now or not? So then we arrived at design principles. The process models for improving learnability, embraceability should be structured, easy, focused, helpful, and insightful. And inspired by those, then I developed the LEAF process models. So here is the process model on an individual level. What is it? How can a knowledge sharer share his lessons learned using the LEAF principles so that the receiver gets the story in a richer sense? So first of all, he can either write it down or make a video or visualize his lessons learned by drawing something. Then he has to share what others can learn from it. Similarly, he has to keep in mind the perspective of the recipient. He has to explain in which context that lessons was learned, and also tell what other people can we consult to know about that lessons learned. So the idea is, when you share that in such a way, you have the embraceability of that shared lessons learned will be higher. Similarly for the organizational, you have here the management and here the organizational people. What does the organization management do to improve the embraceability? They can offer different ways of sharing lessons learned, audio, video, documents. They can generalize those lessons learned to organizational context. They can create situations and environment where knowledge sharing takes place. So it can be a coffee corner. It can be trips to different fields. They can classify lessons learned in an organizational context. And they can improve communication and availability between experts and employees on lessons learned. So that's on an organizational level. How do you test such a system? So we use the system usability scale. It has 10 points, and you can rank them from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then, for example, you can say, I thought, instead of website, I thought this process model was easy to use. And then they rank it. And so 32 participants ranked it. And then you get to a certain score. And think of it in some sort of like a red to green line, different scores meaning different things. So we arrived at a score of 69.69. And we used the reference from Lewis on how to interpret that result. And we ended up in some sort of like grade C and percentile of 41 to 59%. So of course, not great, should have been 90%, but this is how research goes. You take few steps, and then you continue from there. What are some of the key takeaways? Embraceability of shared knowledge is critical for organizational learning. And organizational learning is then important is connected to knowledge management. Leaf process models can assist in enhancing the knowledge embraceability. That's how we connected from the results. And knowledge embraceability requires incorporation of leaf principles, so learnability, embraceability, applicability, and findability on both technological and cultural front. I thank you all. Greetings, our greetings also from the Netherlands. I'm part of University of Twente, and the research was done with the Dutch railway sector, so ProRail and NS are two parties from there. Thank you. Obrigado.